are these people?
Care Bear, you're a teacher.
Yes, sir.
You've been to college for probably way too much money and way too much of your time. At least you didn't have to deal with stuff like this. So, this is at a ScheerPost, particularly at a Truthout, which normally I don't use Truthout stuff. But I felt like this is important. Tara Goodarzi and Brian Dolinar write, campus police are using Israeli spy tech to crack down on student protest. Funny how that works. Now, last year we talked plenty about things at like Columbia University and Yale and Hins Hall and lots of protests on the college campuses, which I think have been the most like effective of the protests. Right. It's massively visible. It disrupts schooling, which no parent wants to do. It goes right back to the parents. The parents actually bring it to the people with money. And essentially all the kids have ever asked for in any of these protests is divest and sanction. You know?
Right.
So,
and look at history. Like, look at what happened in France, for example.
I'm worried about some of that history. How about in Ohio? Well, how about that? How about Kent?
But many of our revolutions have started on colleges.
It's funny how that works. You know, among the people reading, educating themselves.
Reading, educating, but then meeting other people or seeing different ways of living, that you have different perspectives compared to where you grew up. So you're able to see, again, college is not the world, but it gives you a little segment as to how people live in other places around the world, or even in the country. So you're exposed to a lot more and you see a lot more, and just the ideas that flow from these schools, you know, is what can drive a lot of these younger men and women to change, or wanting to be vessels for change.
And because we know a lot of we got some youths that watch, so for you youths, we're going to give you some information that might be beneficial to you as you head back to campus after spring break should be coming up, correct? I would imagine.
No, for some schools they start next week.
Yeah. So, in the early days of his presidency, Donald Trump announced he would be fighting anti-Semitism on college campuses by prosecuting and revoking visas for certain students deemed to be Hamas sympathizers. In a fact sheet accompanying an executive order with measures to combat anti-Semitism, Trump threatened students, come 2025, we will find you and we will deport you. The order itself states that the Department of Education will seek to familiarize institutions of higher education with these goals so that universities may monitor for and report activities by alien students and staff relevant to those grounds, and for ensuring that such reports about aliens lead to investigations and, if warranted, actions to remove such aliens, unless those aliens pay you $5 million. But, you know, regardless. So, because participation in pro-Palestinian movements is often equated with anti-Semitism, advocates and journalists like Etan Nishen, a correspondent for Haaretz, were quick to identify this as a move from a textbook authoritarian playbook meant to stifle any criticism of what's going on in Israel. Again, that's from Haaretz. So, the order blends Trump's fascist policies against immigrants and his obsession with mass deportations led by Immigration and Custom Enforcement with his commitment to Israeli occupation, and it dovetails seamlessly with the current surveillance networks many universities already have in place after the crackdown on students and community members during the spring 2024 encampments.
So I just want to point this out because I see a lot of idiots/liberals online basically being like, "Oh, where are the protests now that Trump is in office?" This is why they are happening.
Yeah,
but mainstream media is not covering them like they did, you know, during Biden, number one, and number two, they more or less have been shut down because students are, and I know Indy reported on you and Indy reported on this, and how do we miss that you know that now there are some college students who are actually suing you know, for the issues that they went through in light of protesting and essentially, you know, the abuse that they went through under the schools and the cops at said schools, in terms of them being retaliated against for their support for Palestine. So, look, I'm not going to tell any college student or otherwise how they should protest, if they should, but they have the right to. And that should be supported regardless of the school. So this is, you know, this is what the Republicans say, like freedom of speech. This ain't it.
Oh yeah, they don't fucking no. They could fucking bullshit some other folks. So you were saying that police militarization has been further accelerated by more than 2 decades of training expeditions. Expeditions, you say? I wonder where. In which thousands of U.S. police have traveled to learn from, you bet, Israeli police and military enforce an occupation of Palestinians with the aid of high-tech surveillance technology. We've talked about that previously. Feel free to go back in our vault and take a look. Such trips are also an opportunity for Israeli-based systems to sell their surveillance products. These include the ironically named, NICE systems, which provide camera networks, Supercom, which deals in electronic monitoring, and Celebrite, which specializes in phone hacking technology and has sold its products to agencies in at least 20 states. This influence is detailed by author Anthony Lowenstein in his influential text, The Palestinian Laboratory: How Israel Exports the Technology of Occupation Around the World. He writes that Israel engages in the surveillance of all Palestinians en masse, regardless of age, location, or intent. Again, we've talked about this. Whitney Webb's talked about this. Please go look into that kind of stuff. Palantir, Anduril, Celebrite, BlackRock, Vanguard. I mean, all of these are all part of the problem here. So, you know, Raytheon. I mean, I could go, there's a whole giant list, I'm sure. A report from Deadly Exchange, a campaign launched by Jewish Voices for Peace, details how such changes expose U.S. law enforcement to the comprehensive monitoring and infiltration tactics and tech in the Israeli arsenal, modeling the apparatus of a sweeping surveillance state. It doesn't model it, it is one. Some universities in the U.S. are also complicit in these trainings, such as the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, or GLE, program based at Georgia State, where Israeli police are invited to train U.S. law enforcement for major U.S. cities. Activists have called for ending the GLE program, sponsoring in part by the Atlanta Police Foundation, the nonprofit behind the large police training facility south of the city known as Cop City. Now. In 2019, Wayne State University Chief of Police traveled to Israel to share law enforcement strategies as part of a delegation of other police officers visiting from Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. He noted the importance of the university's police jurisdiction, not only on campus, but also in the greater Midtown Detroit area, all neighbors and members of our community. As police try to legitimize their growing repression, communities continue to resist. In 2020, Tufts University students voted in a referendum to prohibit campus police from attending future retreats in Israel. Amnesty International, I got problems with you, but you note that funds spent to train our domestic police in Israel should concern all of us, explaining that many domestic police abuses documented parallel violations by Israeli military security and police officials. So, during the wave of pro-Palestinian encampments that swept the country last spring, campus police took the opportunity to amplify traditional strong-arm behaviors, which included numerous violent assault against professors and students alike with newly acquired surveillance technology. This dangerous combination led to more than 3,200 arrests nationwide. Universities supported these efforts by quickly suspending First Amendment rights to peaceable assembly, with some even enforcing archaic anti-mask laws against student protesters, originally enacted in response to the Ku Klux Klan to aid police use of facial recognition software. Well, Care Bear, I found this, and I almost didn't want to bring it but I felt like it was important. And I don't know how accurate this is, but this is Terror Watch Agency. They're a shitty Israeli fucking terrorist org at this point, but they're showcasing a unmasking and de-anonymizing the hate and terror crowd who attended the vigil of Hezbollah's eliminated terrorist manager Hassan Nasrallah on Sunday, right? So what they did was they used AI to unmask masked individuals, essentially.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that's a problem.
Right.
So again, look at who they're, Yacobi, right? Stop Anti-Semites, Beitar, which is deemed a terrorist org, right? And the FBI, the NYPD, right? They're essentially the biggest snitches they could possibly be. So yeah, essentially they're able to make models of these people without their face needed.
The thing is, and we've talked about this before, like how accurate this is, because I think of like, not to make this comparison in this way, but someone like Luigi Mangione, who people are like, his face, like his appearance his face does not necessarily match the grainy photos of him at the hotel. I guess it was the hotel where he allegedly stayed at before he unalived that CEO. So, but we've talked basically how AI, depending on how you use it, is not accurate. So this can be just an awful way to implicate people who are innocent.
Very much so. Like, again, I didn't want to, this could be complete fear mongering from them, to try to get you to not wear whatever to protect yourself. But I would still take precautions, and I would look into, there's actual masks designed to counter like facial recognition of any kind. Please look into those.
Right, which is kind of such a 180 from 5 years ago.
Yes.
Because when people were protesting during the midst of COVID, everyone's saying
had to,
or encouraged wear a mask.
Yeah.
Now it's like masks are a danger because, like, for the opposite,
it provides anonymity.
Right.
So, but it's the same reason why they don't like the head coverings or the kufias or any of those things that are happening on those same grounds. So, but I would just take precautions if you plan on doing those things. Or be aware that you're probably being monitored. One of those two. Just assume that generally. But the student newspaper Columbia Spectator exposed in September how the administration at Columbia University and Barnard College spied on student activists before and after the encampment. Following a Resistance 101 workshop held by a campus divestment group early in the spring, campus police started collecting information on demonstrators, gathering footage from campus surveillance cameras, and tracking student IDs swiped at building entrances. They also sent private investigators to interrogate students at home. Columbia Spectator reports the administration then began to suspend students, expel them from housing, and call them before disciplinary hearings. New York City Police Department conducted multiple sweeps of student spaces. In a press conference on May the 1st, during the height of the campus protests, New York City Mayor Eric Adams thanked Columbia professor Rebecca Weiner, who joined him on stage for monitoring the situation. When protests first began across the city, Professor Weiner, who conveniently moonlights as the NYPD's Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism, serves as the liaison between NYPD's Tel Aviv branch, built in 2012 on the rubble of destroyed Palestinian village Kfar Saba, and NYPD stateside. Weiner boasted that her office in New York had received hourly updates from the NYPD's Tel Aviv precinct since October 7th, ensuring that the militarized army terrorizing Palestinians was aligned with those harming U.S. students. Yay! So, over at Yale, the 93 officer private police department kept an eye on campus protests with help from the FBI. As journalist Thea Chattel reported in Jewish Currents, documents obtained from the settlement in a lawsuit for public records reveal that Jennifer Wagner, the head of the FBI's New Haven office, reached out to Yale Police Chief Anthony Campbell to offer assistance. Quote, the FBI has been monitoring the widespread protests related to the Israeli-Hamas conflict at several colleges and universities. After an alleged assault in April, the FBI got a search warrant for the home of a pro-Palestinian student and performed what Yale Public Safety referred to as a, quote, dump of information from their cell phone, a serious invasion of their personal property. The Yale Police Department installed cameras on campus, tracked students' social media accounts, and monitored students using aerial drones, according to Chattel. So, sound familiar?
Yes.
One of the nation's largest public universities, the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, has taken a particularly aggressive approach to targeted activists. It's currently pursuing felony mob action charges against encampment demonstrators. Now, me and Indy covered that quite a while ago. They are RICO acting these kids as they did to the Cop City protesters. They are RICO acting them. And that has set a precedent now. So, you know, you are in conspiracy to conspire, essentially, with the RICO Act. So, you know, they changed some rules on that. So it's a lot more sweeping legislation. So, keep an eye out for that. But it's currently pursuing felony mob action charges using evidence from their license plate readers and monitoring social media posts. So keep that in mind. Might behoove you to have a personal and student account for your social media, if it were me. But UIUC is a test case for the militarization of campus police. The University of Illinois Police Department had a total budget in fiscal year from 22 to 23 of $13.5 million. There are currently 2,300 cameras installed throughout the campus. The university recently won a federal grant of nearly $1 million to establish a real-time crime center that will allow police to monitor surveillance cameras, search databases, and use license plate readers. Information attained from public records requests reveal the capabilities of UIPD surveillance. In one instance, a detective with the UIPD sent photos of a student protester to the Illinois State Police statewide Terrorism and Intelligence Center, a fusion center opened on May 14th. Photos from UIPD were run through facial recognition software possessed by the fusion center to successfully identify the student, leading to their prosecution. Campus and community activists had found that since at least 2021, the University of Illinois Board of Trustees had contracted with Cellebrite, the Israeli-based company that sells surveillance technology and is known for being the phone hacking software of choice for the FBI. The board most recently renewed its contract with the tech firm in November for use of digital collector and inspector subscriptions. The former is advertised as a must-have tool in the digital forensic toolbox for investigators, while the later is marketed to find internet history, downloads, locations, recent searches, and more. The board has spent at least $17,000 on such technology, according to information obtained from the Illinois Freedom of Information Act requests. So, UIUC's contract renewal comes after more than a year of Palestinian ethnic cleansing by Israel and underscores the university admin's commitment to Israeli interests in direct opposition to the concerns of students, alumni, faculty, and community activists. Students have been trying to pass boycott, divestment, sanctions referenda at UIUC since at least 2020, to no avail. Lauren Knutson, a concerned alumni who recently spoke out in favor of divestment at the quarterly board meeting, feels like this contract renewal is a slap in the face to student activists after everything that has gone over the last year. She told Truthout that even though students have been asking their university to listen, they just continue to be ignored. End quote. So, The university is now a repeat customer of a company that's been accused of facilitating human rights abuses by activists for years, including by Amnesty International. Celebrite has academic institutions like UIUC to thank for our excellent 2024, in which Celebrite exceeded their original revenue and other financial targets, according to interim CEO Thomas E. Hogan. The New York Times reported that Celebrite has sold about $54 million in investigative tools to ICE, which can now be used to power Trump's current immigration crackdown, among other things. Partnering with Celebrite is one weapon in the UIUC's arsenal to stifle student speech on campus, a pattern of behavior that caused the ACLU of Illinois to issue a scathing letter. Yay, strongly worded letters. On January 14th, directly to university administrations, the letter stated, among other things, that UIUC needed to exercise, quote, greater restraint in enforcing policies restricting student activism, end quote. When asked to comment, UIUC Executive Communications and Issue Management Director Pat Wade claimed that campus police do not use Celebrite technology for surveillance and only use the program for, quote, cellular device extraction and analysis with consent or warrant. He also asserted that the university remains committed to creating an environment that fosters free speech.
Also lie.
Yup. Truthout reached out to Celebrite, but they failed to respond with a comment. Stanis Sabuwala, a member of the Champagnat Urbana Muslim Action Committee and a PhD candidate at UIUC, helped expose the UIUC Celebrite connection as she told Truthout, the FBI and ICE have paid millions of dollars to Celebrite, which is run by former IDF members. And now these military tools are in the hands of corrupt regimes, ICE, and our campus police. It is unacceptable. The Muslim Action Committee was concerned, Sabuwala says, because historically, Muslims have suffered from mass surveillance in this country, so therefore our ongoing investment in surveillance technology at every level, from campus to local police to the federal government, is a concern for the Muslim community. Catherine Clancy, a UIUC professor and member of Faculty for Justice in Palestine, is disturbed by the university's decision to make it impossible for students to participate safely in protest. In her view, an important part of university education is the cultivation of bravery, of standing up for something you believe in. In the end, the response to this spring encampment illustrates that campuses care more about their property than their students. I would argue they think of their students as property, but what do I know? So, thoughts, Care Bear?
I mean, we've reported on this story in a similar ways over the last few months, so none of this surprises me. And I think even back, maybe in September, we were warning college students. Now, I think given our analytics, we don't have many Gen Zers watch our show, but if in the event in the future, if they do, this is our reality now. And Palestine or not, this
is the problem.
The systems are already in place and will continue to be in place, just to do surveillance on you, just in general, like Palestine protesting, that's just the tip of the iceberg. They can, so you can go under surveillance really for anything that a college might deem undesirable.
Yeah.
And given how it's connected now to the FBI,
well, and this is not going to stop at Palestine either.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's they can do this for anything they choose.
Yep.
So
suddenly there's protests for Sudan. That's going to be monitored. Suddenly there's protest of a president or, God forbid, a university administration member. Any of those things would be heavily monitored and controlled by campus police. So yeah, none of that's good. But I would like people to be a little prepared in the event that people might knock on your door. So advisory on FBI visits to Palestinian activists. So this is from Palestinian Legal, Palestine Legal. And they write, this week, 2 FBI agents visited the home of a University of California, Los Angeles student and asked them questions about their student activism for Palestinian rights. This is not the first FBI encounter reported to our office. However, the line of questioning reflects intensifying efforts to criminalize protected political speech and human rights advocacy. State surveillance of social justice movements is not new. It has been used to intimidate activists both historically and in the current climate. There's a particular Tupac lady that might have something to say about that. But be prepared to handle an FBI visit. So how do we do that, Care Bear? Well, if an agent knocks on your door, first thing you do, don't fucking answer any questions. You shut the fuck up. Okay? You have a constitutional right to shut the fuck up, and you should exercise your right to shut the fuck up. Do not let them into your house. They're like vampires. They need an invitation. Okay? Step outside, close the door behind him, or talk to them through the door, preferable. Only give them permission to enter if they show you a warrant signed by a judge that accurately lists your address and apartment number. Say, please leave your business card. My lawyer will call you. Repeat it over and over again, no matter how nice they are. Do not say anything else. You do not have to inform them who your lawyer is. Do not answer any questions. If it makes sense for you to do an interview, your free lawyer will help you with that. Okay? Never lie about anything. Even a white lie or a harmless lie, it can be a crime to lie to an agent. Share this with your roommates, parents, and any others who might open the door on your behalf, and make sure they understand what to do. And lastly, do not answer any questions. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up Friday. Okay? Shut up.
Right.
Let the lawyer do the talking. Shut up. They said that 3 times. Okay?
Right.
Shut up. Okay. Glad we got there. Share this with your roommates, parents, and others. Again, shut up. If you or your roommates, if you or your roommates mistakenly let an agent in or start speaking with them, end the conversation. Tell them you have nothing more to say, that your lawyer will contact them, and that you'd like them to leave unless they present a warrant. Get in touch with Palestine Legal as soon as possible. Again, linked in the description below for this. You can click it. You can go here. Particularly, I want to mention this. If an agent knocks, right? In that article, you'll see this little blue link. You can click it. It will take you to a Google document of more information of if an agent knocks. Again, also, you have the right to remain silent. Know your rights guide from the National Lawyers Guild. You can go that, click there, read your rights, know your rights, make sure you understand what's happening before you get pulled into a courtroom. But any thoughts, Care Bear, before we head out of here?
No, I think thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Because most people may not know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like police generally cannot enter your premises without a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
So do not let them in.
Yeah.
Be nice, but do not let them in, and don't say, as you said, do not say shit. Like, and just keep saying,
shut the fuck up.
My lawyer will talk to you. My lawyer will talk to you.
Yep.
Basically, and go away. Like, so, you know, so like the main goal is obviously, you know, as a black man, you know, like I had to kind of
be
like I have
careful.
to handle myself differently, like in dealing with the cops in life. But for everyone else who do not have to worry about such things, if in the event that you do get run on by the cops in this way, you know, be polite, don't yell, like keep everything kind of monotone or whatever, and just say, I'm sorry, I cannot answer your questions. And you'll have to speak to my lawyer. And just keep saying that.
We all have one of these things. These things I think are very important. You know, there are apps and applications and settings to turn on for you to have emergency recording. You know, I think that's a very useful thing to do. Make sure you know how to get to your camera feature very quickly and your recording feature. And, you know, I think I think it's fair to record that and state that you're recording, you know?
Right.
So, you know, if they want to go further, fine. But I do believe you are allowed to record a public official. So I think in a couple of states you're not. So please go look at your state's laws on that. But otherwise, you know, do everything you can.
Since for many of these cops, if they're supposed to wear cameras, they might just turn them do an oopsie and just not turn them on. Yep. So it is for your protection to actually have it on and say that, like, I'm recording you.
Yep.
So, you know, that should hopefully be somewhat of a give them pause to actually, if they choose to get rough with you. Now, it may not always happen, but it might deter them a little bit from, you know, going ham on you if they choose to. So do what you can, as, you know, like my mom says, you know, do whatever you can to ensure that, like in my case, if I was out and I got run up by the cops, do whatever you can to get home.
Yeah.
You know, so in this case, do whatever you need to do to ensure that nothing will be used against you, that you will not get assaulted. And yeah, so, you know, I say all the time, take care of yourselves. This is a way. This is one of the ways that you should.
Yep. Well, talking about these things is probably why we're demonetized. So you can scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork, or it's in the doobly-doo below. We appreciate any funds you can give. If you're in that live chat, you can put !donate and let you get a link to super chat us. We appreciate it. But we get it. Times are tough. Money's tight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the share button. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. You know, are you worried about what's happening on campus? Are you a student who takes part in protests? You know, let us know what you're seeing out on the ground. We appreciate it. But otherwise, you know, thanks for watching.